We'll go ahead and get this started. Good morning. Welcome to the Lancaster Criminal Justice Commission meeting on Wednesday, the 9th of March. It's approximately 10:05, and we'll start the meeting now. Roll call, please, Brett.
Commissioner Brown.
Present.
Carter. Harris.
Present.
Herr.
Present.
Rodriguez.
Present.
Vice Chairman Little.
Present.
Chairman Vieira.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. And we'll start with an invocation from Pastor Felipe Saavedra.
Good morning. How are you guys? I'm Chairman, Vice Chair, and thank you for allowing me to pray for you guys. This morning, Lord, we pray in the name of you, God Almighty. I pray for this commission meeting. Lord, you are the God of justice. God, you are the ultimate judge. You see the motives of men, and you see our hearts even when we don't see our hearts, God, and you see our motivations. Lord, we pray that this meeting would go well according to your will. God, I pray for every single member here, God, that they would do their best in keeping the interests of the city in mind, Lord, knowing that all of us have to give an account for what we say and what we do, Lord Jesus. And in your name we pray. Amen. All right. Thank you.
Everyone can put their hands over their heart and repeat with me. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, seeing there's no presentations following the pledge, public business from the floor agendized. I have no cards for agendized, so we'll move on to consent calendar. We have the minutes, approval of the minutes. Commissioners, if you've had the chance to take a look at that, if we get a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any comments, questions need to be shared? Seeing none, I call for the vote. And that passes unanimously. We'll go ahead and move on to new business. NB1 subcommittee update. I believe Jocelyn.
Good morning. Dennis Vincent from the District Attorney's Office met with the committee about a week and a half ago. Maybe, I'm sorry, I've lost track of time, primarily to discuss an initiative, a constitutional amendment initiative called the Justice and Rehabilitation Act that would change sentencing, parole pretty drastically. I was hoping he was going to be here to kind of delve into the specifics. We are going to put together a briefing and a summary of sort of some bullet points so you can understand how the sentencing works and the implications if this initiative passes. So we'll try to put that together for you for the May meeting. I can tell you from sort of the legal standpoint, there was a hearing at the Supreme Court about this initiative because after the deadline had passed for public comments, Governor Brown amended the initiative to include adult sentencing and adult parole in addition to the juvenile sentencing and parole that was the foundation of the initiative to begin with. The Supreme Court has allowed the petition to be circulated for signature as is, pending an appeal. So that's where we're at. It has received a title and summary. If you look at one of the handouts that we left for you, the title, this is the title that's going to be on the petition, and if it makes the ballot, this is what it will say on the ballot. Criminal sentences, juvenile criminal proceedings and sentencing, initiative, constitutional amendment, and statute. So it's fairly vanilla in its title, and when you read the summary, it seems very innocuous, but as Mr. Vincent will explain in further detail at the next meeting, it has some really serious implications that we're very concerned about. So that's out for signature now. In addition to that, the committee touched very briefly on another initiative that's out there called the Over-Policed Rights Act that has also qualified to go out for circulation for signature, and it sets out a very draconian system for jurisdictions being named an over-policed jurisdiction, which, if that is can be proven up just by statistics, can be proven just by a preponderance of evidence, and can be proven without having to show any willful malice on the part of any law enforcement officer or agency as a whole. A pattern of over-policing, of brutality, of arrests, of a broad range of behavior that doesn't necessarily rise to the level of anything inappropriate, could establish an over-policed jurisdiction. And in that event, a volunteer group is appointed, and any member of that volunteer group can attend any investigation, any interview, any meeting, anything with any officer at any time, which has its own scary implications. That is also out for signature, and the title and summary on that one you also have attached. It also has a very, sounds great. The title is Law Enforcement, Use of Excessive Force, Discrimination. So those we're keeping on our radar. We can find out when it reaches 25% of the necessary signatures, and I'll let you know when it is, if it has reached that. The deadline for qualification for both of these initiatives is July 1. They have to have all of the signatures necessary, and all of those signatures have to be verified by July 1. If they do not, they won't make it onto the November ballot. So it's a pretty short period of time for them to get all of that done. So we're going to keep an eye on that, and we'll let you know about the status of that as well.
And I think the point of having the committee and those discussions here on a public level is to educate the public more so than what happened with some of the last initiatives on the totality of what the implications are. Just a side note too on these, that the district attorneys throughout the state have taken up this issue as it relates to specifically the first one on the Sentencing Act and what it does. It takes away all the enhancements and incentives for adding to sentencing based on a certain criteria that qualifies that. That's been in the law for some time now. It basically reverses everything down to the principal case. So one principal case, regardless of the number of victims or number of time the activity occurred, it takes everything down to sentencing just to the bare minimum of what that principal case is. So, and the reason this went to the California Supreme Court, because it's being challenged by the district attorney's offices throughout the state based on those implications. So again, just to further for committee, and Mr. Vincent is offering the information only not as a stance based on his office from Jackie Lacey's office, but more for informational to educate us on exactly what the implications could be.
And the last thing for me, the final handout that you have from me is just a list of all of the initiatives that are approved and out for circulation for signatures. You can see that a number of them have to do with marijuana legalization. We've discussed in the past that it's absolutely expected that at least one marijuana legalization something will be on the ballot in November. So we're just going to keep an eye on those as well. There are a few other things that are in there that we're going to keep our eye on. And then the last couple of pages are those initiatives that have already qualified for the November ballot. Nothing earth-shattering there, but again, we'll keep an eye on how all of these proceed, and I'll let you know as things progress. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. And if Mr. Vincent does show up before this meeting's over, it'd be appropriate for him to come and speak to that further if you'd like to as well. Just for information purposes, the composition of the committee is myself, Dr. Brown, and Lisa Rodriguez, and of course we met with Jocelyn, Mr. Jericho, and I think there was one other individual there as well, but I don't recall the name.
It was just Dennis.
It was just Dennis? Okay.
Dennis. I mean,
Okay.
Dennis, thank you to Mr. Franklin for allowing us to work with us and bring us up to speed occasionally on what is completely involved in this initiative.
Yeah, and there's a lot to it and some concerns that were raised that we'll continue to go a little bit deeper on and bring back for thought. Thank you. We'll move on to commission staff presentations, updates, and reports, and we'll start off with LA County Sheriff Department Crime Trends Report presenter.
If I could interrupt 1 second while we're...
Oh,
No, please come up, but I just wanted to ask a question. We're not in session in April, and I don't know whether there's a sense that the City Council is interested in our acting on this sooner than May. Any thoughts?
You can hold off till November if you'd like. That's my opinion on it. All the work that you're going to do might be changed with legislation that happens in November. So you can meet, get ready for what happens in November, but as far as us making a decision on it, I don't think that we'll make a decision till after November.
Thank you. Good morning, Commission. I know most of all of you. My name is Deputy Kit Groupie, LA County Sheriff's Department assigned to Lancaster Station. Today I'm going to be presenting you with the crime stats for the month of February. And we'll start out with the CompStat. So total violent crimes were 66, property crimes 287, total Part 1 crimes 353, violent crime arrests 75, property crime arrests 62, total arrests for the month 137, total earns issued 1,530. The Lancaster City total Part 1 crime counts by month-to-year comparison or year-to-year comparison it went from 316 to 353 for the current year for the month of February. The most active reporting districts for Part 1 crimes in February, 1137, which is on the east side of Lancaster, 44. 1127 on the west side, 35. 1121 also west at 33. 1126 on the west side, 32. And 1135 on the east side, 32. There's your hotspot area. Move on to residential burglaries for February of 2016. 1121, 14, 1137, 11, 1123, 6, and 1132, 6. There's your target map. Robberies for February, 1137, 6, 1132, 4. Go to the monthly trends. For homicides, the average is 1, and we're right there. We're right at average now. For rapes over a period of a year, the average is 7, and we are at 8. So from March of 2015 to now, the average is 7, and we are at 8 for February. The robberies averaged over the year total amount of 28, which we are below average now, where we were and still are in February at just above 20, approximately 21, 22. Aggravated assaults over a period of a year, the average is 48. We are now at just above 40. Burglaries over a period of a year, the average is 111, and we're just above 80 now for February. Larceny thefts over a period of a year, average is 165, at which we're just below 150 now for February. Grand theft vehicles over a period of a year, the average is 44, and we're right at the 50 line in February. The arsons, average is 5. We are below average at 4. The City of Lancaster Part 1 crime frequency by reporting district map. The green is a 0 to 2 count. The kind of lime colored is a 3 to 7. Yellow is 8 to 15. I believe the lighter of it might be orange, or the lighter of the red is 16 to 22, and 23 to 38 for the darkest. We'll move on to station statistics. Go ahead. All right, for the LANCAP team for February, they had a total of 31 felony arrests. Misdemeanor arrests were at 25. The team recovered 4 firearms. Estimated value of narcotics seized was $43,490 for the month of February. The burglary suppression team had 19 felony arrests, 1 misdemeanor arrest, a felony warrant arrest. I'm sorry, 2 felony warrant arrests. If you go down to Ramey warrants, 10. Parole probation searches, 5. And they recovered $92,264 in recovered stolen property. 2 firearms, and they solved 34 burglaries. The narco team and narcotics stats, felony arrests for patrol was 29, for the crew 1. Misdemeanor arrests 43 for patrol, 6 for juveniles. Patrol recovered 112.5 grams of marijuana. Methamphetamine 136 grams, and 23.8 grams for cocaine. We move up to the LEAPS portion. Any questions so far, Commission?
Yeah, thanks for the wonderful work, but it seems like everything went down except the regular crime rate, and also it never changes a hotspot area. What do you think that is? It's compared to the last months.
As far as the last months go,
Yes.
they haven't changed? I'm sorry, one more time, Mr. Herb, I'm sorry.
As far as a hotspot goes, it never changes. Hotspot. Once it's a hotspot, seems like it's always been a hotspot.
As far as a direct
There-
answer, I can research it for you. I know that those hot spots are targeted.
And there is anything we can change? Just increase the patrol in that area, or
Right, anytime we have those hot spots, we have increased volume of our, say, the burglary suppression team. We'll target that area in attempting to catch or make arrests on these suspects that are committing these crimes. So those target areas are, that information is used basically for our teams to go out and increase their patrol areas. But I don't, I can research it. I don't have an answer for you as to why the target areas are always the same.
once one area become because reason I'm asking is I have a business.
Yes, sir.
In hotspot, it never been changed, So once one area become a hotspot, and do you guys change your routines just to increase the patrol in that area?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, anytime there's a hotspot area, we brief it daily for our deputies going out on their shifts, whether it's routine patrol or our teams, LANCAP, burglary suppression, those types of teams. So there is an increased patrol.
Let me, and just something on this, the more proactive we are generates numbers as well. So that can be misleading to a certain extent because it generates file numbers. So as deputies go out proactively work in an area, based on their self-initiated activity, when they make an arrest, that generates a file number. Okay, that file number goes into our statistical database and can add to those numbers. So it's not always an indicator that there's a huge crime issue there other than it's being addressed, and that generates numbers as well. So this is when I talk about the fact that crime rates are somewhat misleading based on the way they're calculated, because it's not truly an indicator of how safe or unsafe a community may be. There's a standard that's written for that's just kind of a baseline. But the reality is the more police you put in an area, the more statistical numbers it produces based on self-initiated activity pushes those numbers up. And all that indicator is the fact that there's a rise based on file numbers than earn numbers that have been pulled in a specific area based on that. But that's not always a bad thing. It could be a good thing based on proactive effort. If you look like burglaries are down overall,
Right.
okay, based on those targeted areas. But a lot of that is arrests that are made, so the frequency of the burglaries are down, but there may be more arrests in an area that contribute to that number.
I see.
With-
Okay.
Can I, with that, some of these areas obviously are blighted areas as far as, do they target landowners too? I mean, people that aren't keeping their properties up, cars being parked on front lawns, I mean, all kinds of things. So,
Well, I can definitely bring to you, and I will do this for May, just to explain that too on that side of it. Quality of life issues are what we deal with mostly from the Public Safety Office that are not necessarily the sheriff's responsibility as it related to neighborhood blight, broken window theory, things as addressed through our chronic nuisance ordinance, which we do, all those things in conjunction based on the deputy's contact in those areas, working with city code enforcement and public safety to eradicate those areas. And I mean, we all understand what neighborhood blight does behind that broken window theory, and that's been proven. Okay, if we look at an area, the other thing is that indicate to things, if you have poverty density in an area, there's all kinds of things that you can bring to tables that are noteworthy studies out there that are indicators for increased crime. The other thing is it indicates that, just exactly what Kit said, as the Sheriff's Department looks at this daily, now shift almost now with the MDC abilities they have, and target areas based on that ebb and flow of the crime rate in certain areas. And again, based on that increased activity and law enforcement activity in an area, will initially drive numbers up, not down, because they're learning who people are that are committing those type of activity there and address those. On the follow-up side of that, it's a community effort on that community model of all those things come into play and using the resources that are available in the community through different multiple agencies, not just the city, not just the Sheriff's Department, but other agencies that exist out there that receive funding and resources to address these neighborhood issues. And that runs the gamut, all the way from proactive diversion models all the way through, we're not going to rest our way out of problems. We talk about that all the time. The reality of it is getting to what those causation factors are and what's the result of that. That's what we need to address.
One other question on the counts being low as far as crime down, burglaries and whatnot. How much do you think of that is attributed to school being in session, and does that change when summertime comes? As well as on the auto thefts, is that how much of that has to do with the fact that when it's colder weather, people are warming their cars up, and that attributes to the auto theft?
Yeah, I do believe that does attribute. I think we touched base on that last month with people warming their vehicles up in the morning with the keys in it on those extremely cold mornings, running your house and your car's gone.
Now, what about school being in session with burglary? Is that any connection?
Absolutely. I mean, school's in session. We do have an issue as far as juveniles committing burglaries, and I know that was discussed too. At one of our last meetings, Mr. DeRico had brought that up. When school is in session, we still also target and do truancy sweeps with some of the teams combined, and we'll go out and target those hotspot areas and look for basically people who are supposed to be in school, young men and women who aren't at school. And when we're doing that, I think that's a huge diversion on those days that we do as far as cutting down the burglary statistics.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Commission? I'm going to move on to LEAPS.
One quick question.
Yes, sir.
When we talk about narcotics and talk about the various drugs that are that you're seeing out there, are you seeing an influx in anything in particular at this time, or is it just pretty much the same?
You know, I'm basing it off of stats right now. It seems as if it's kind of been the same.
Okay.
The two main ones I see is the marijuana and the methamphetamine right now, but that's all based on statistics.
Okay.
LEAPS, the city's law enforcement aerial platform system that assists the Sheriff's Department assisted with 20 arrests for the month of February, 4 burglaries, 4 assaults with a deadly weapon, 5 basically vehicle thefts, taking vehicle without the consent of the owner, 2 robberies, a person with a gun, a vehicle pursuit, and 1 felony spousal assault. So it directly supported 20 arrests and the surveillance of 207 locations. It had 42.4 hours of total dispatch time to support the Sheriff's Department in February. Of the 207 surveillance events, the Sheriff's Department formally logged 130 service calls where LEAP supported tactical field operations. The February statistics are from an arrest perspective, and they're in line with the average monthly arrests since the tracking of this statistic. And this is based off of LEAPs and their information. Any other questions? Well, I think that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move forward with the California Highway Patrol update.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sergeant Jacobson. I'm from the Antelope Valley CHP office. A couple things that we've noticed. We've had an increase in fatality traffic collisions, mostly occurring in the east side of the Lancaster area. This time last year, we had 4, and that is our 3-year average of 4. Unfortunately, this year, we're up quite a bit. We're at 7 so far. 2 of those have involved pedestrian versus vehicles. So we're seeing an increase where people are walking in the roadway and getting struck by vehicles. So what we're doing is we're informing our officers at our daily briefings when they're out in those areas to make contact with those pedestrians, inform them of the hazards of walking in the roadway, and ensuring that they understand that it's a very dangerous situation out there, and to try to stay off the roadway as much as possible. As far as our recordable accidents and our injury accidents, we're up about 50%. And we contribute a lot of that to do with the rainy season. As everybody knows, Californians, when it starts raining, they don't like to slow down, which incurs a lot more accidents, and a lot of them are injury accidents because of that. Our DUI arrests compared to last year, we're up about 6.3%. So we're seeing a little bit increase in those. Along with our arrests overall, we're up about 6% compared to last year. Our DUI traffic collisions are up about 9%, so it's right about in line with our DUI arrests. So, does anybody have any questions? I don't have any fancy slides like the Sheriff's Department.
As far as the DUI arrests, Sergeant, the 6% increase you said, is that because you believe more activity or more presence by the CHP and everybody being out there? Or making it more aware?
I think it's both. We're really pushing our guys, especially at night, to get those impaired drivers off of the roadway. If we can get them off the roadway, then that obviously leads to less accidents and less tragic things that we see involving DUI.
It seems to me like the Sheriff's Department, CHP, has got it more active in saying this is a program that we're really, going after. It seems like with all the equipment that's been bought for the Sheriff's Department and the CHP, as far as checkpoints and everything else, it seems like that could be the increase because.
Yeah, it has to do with,
the great job that you guys are doing. Yeah.
More people, more equipment, then just like anything else, if the Sheriff's Department is targeting a known problem, then obviously our stats are going to go up because of that. And with the CHP, DUIs have always been very important. So we're going back to those basics, making sure that we push our people.
How do you feel about possibility of the speed limits going up?
I could see it because vehicles are a little bit safer nowadays than they were back when the speed limits were up, but the average person doesn't drive the posted speed limit at 65. So an increase in that, I don't think we'll see a whole lot. a difference. So.
Thank you, sir.
A quick comment and question. I find it unfortunate but interesting when you talk about the increased pedestrians being struck, and I'd read a recent article where that's across the country they're seeing that, but they attribute it to people not paying attention and walking, looking at their phones and so on and such forth. Are we seeing that as being part of that possibly as well?
I see that. The two fatalities that were involved were late at night, so we don't know exactly what they were doing, and they were in areas where there's no sidewalks, no real residential areas. But I see it in the city. People are glued to their phones, and I don't know if it's pedestrians believe that they have the right-of-way all the time. For instance, when I was driving here, there was a whole family of 6 people that just walked across Avenue I, not even an intersection. So I think it has to go back to education, too, to pedestrians that they need to get out of their phones, they need to pay attention. Just because it says walk doesn't mean you should walk without looking. So.
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
City Attorney update, Mr. Stephen Franklin.
So I think it's a district attorney's update.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's, Ms. Corbett's the city attorney. Okay, we've for the last 2 months I haven't had the ability to run numbers, so I put in a special request. So I can tell you in January of this year, we filed 212 felony cases and 506 misdemeanors. Last year, it was 263 felonies and 499 misdemeanors. In February of, again, this year, we filed 212 felonies and 596 misdemeanors. And last year, it was 235 felonies and 502 misdemeanors. So it's about the same, but these are, again, quite a bit different than the pre-Prop 47 numbers. So we still see that big decrease. The other thing that I wanted just to bring to the Commission's attention, I did bring just a couple real brief articles. One is literally just a one-page article. It's from the Daily Journal, which is the legal newspaper. It's not, it's certainly not a conservative paper, but they do have an interesting article on the California District Attorneys Association that filed a writ against the proposition that I had spoken about last meeting, which was what they've changed the name now, so it's the Public Safety and Rehabilitation Act, which is really a misnomer. And the California District Attorney's Office or Association filed a suit saying that, the governor's jumping ahead in line. There's supposed to be a 65-day waiting period, public discussions and so forth. So anyway, what I want to do is just pass down. It's just a one-page article. And it was seeking, thanks. It was, you can have a copy too. And then I also have a second article which indicates that a judge did in fact stay the requiring of signatures, and so Governor Brown is now appealing this to the state Supreme Court due to the what he considers to be the need to reduce the prison population. So that's the second article here. I bring this up because I think it's such a I think it would have tremendous impact on the community here if, in fact, this legislation was passed. And I really am concerned about the effect it could have on the community. It would drastically reduce sentences, and as the first article indicates, it could be up to 300,000 to 400,000 early parole releases, many of which will come right to our community here. So I do have someone working on the impact. His name's Dennis Vincent. He met, I believe, with some of the community members the other day. He's still getting spun up on this, and he'll be a good point person. We are going to go to a roundtable on Friday from Assemblyman Lackey's office. But it is something that I just would urge the commission to just keep an eye on, because I do think it really has the potential to be to really endanger our community. That concludes my, barring any questions, that concludes my presentation.
Mr. Franklin, top of the morning to you. How are you?
Good morning.
So the statewide District Attorneys Association has brought this writ. What is the position of the Los Angeles County District Attorney on this writ?
Right. I'm unaware of the position at this point. There hasn't been a formal position stated at this point. So actually, when I'm speaking outside of the numbers, I'm actually speaking as a private citizen regarding my own concern about this community. But I don't have a position yet from the district attorney. But as soon as I do, I'll certainly bring it to the commission's attention.
But District Attorney Lacey, is she part of the lawsuit by the District Attorneys Association?
I don't know. I believe it's predominantly the individual. I think she's the Sacramento DA. There was pictures on from that article.
I think you're aware that we did put a committee together composed of members of this commission, and thank you for allowing Mr. Vincent to come and speak with us and provided some much insight on the initiative that is before.
You're welcome. It's confusing because the sentencing scheme is confusing, and it's not a logical progressive sentencing scheme. So it's very easy by working in semantics and a slip of language here and there and make it seem like it's not such a offensive tool. But in reality, when they say, well, we're still going to keep violent offenders in, they don't mention the serious felonies, and the violent offenses are just a handful. And, for instance, residential burglary, attempted robbery, those are not considered violent. So all of those would get would get a significantly less sentence or fewer years in state prison. It's complicated.
Not an easy read.
No.
Thank you.
Yes.
And now from City Attorney, anything further, Jocelyn? I know you spoke earlier, but.
No, nothing at this point. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And public safety update?
Yeah, just to talk about, I was fortunate to attend the City Managers Conference with the Sheriff's Department with Captain Nelson, and over a 2-day conference, and where the sheriff spoke and talked about some of his plans for the county and what he's emphasizing. But I think one of the things that was interesting that came out of that conference is the sheriff is really putting a focus on the mental evaluation team and dealing with the mentally ill and law enforcement. Currently, there's 8 teams in place countywide. That's a response team that's working with other agencies within the county to respond when deputies deal with individuals who are deemed to be potentially mentally ill. And that is going to expand, his hope is, to up to 23 teams countywide at some point. So, I mean, there's some discussion on really how that looks as far as the county and how they're going to implement that with patrol divisions, whether that's even feasible as it relates to the deputies' time out there in the field. But that was kind of an interesting discussion. I think the most interesting thing that came out of it is there was an actual mock presentation on how the contract cities and county council and the sheriff's department deal with some of the liability issues as it relates to lawsuits, and there's going to be some things that are coming from that with cost increases as well as contract increases and things that we're dealing with right now. But that was very interesting to look at how that process and how they work with county council and evaluate that process based on liability. I just want to talk, the air show's coming up on March 19th and 20th. We expect, and Dr. Vieira is a director on that board, but that is going to be, it grows every year. Expectation that it'll grow again this year as well. I'd like to just encourage everyone out there. The Sheriff's Department's put together a great plan for the community safety at the event. There will be a significant amount of security at the event as well. The city's interaction with that has been very well with parking. I just want to encourage everyone to come out early. Okay, don't show up at 5 minutes before the event, and because parking fills up pretty darn quick, and that can become an issue. Also in April, since we're not meeting in April, I just want to, the annual California Poppy Festival will be coming again to Lancaster City Park once again. Our plan is in place operationally and everything, how we handle that event. That's a great event. Some of the focus for us right now, especially in the public safety offices, is continued focus on juvenile diversion. We're currently working with Dr. Vieira and the Department of Probation right now on how that looks on a juvenile day reporting center within our community to work in that proactive model and divert these youth at that first or second level offense, as well as the education component that's an integral part of the high school district being involved in that program. I think it's something that will be very good and helpful, especially as it relates to our field officers, for law enforcement to be able to have a location for drop-off and those things, so we're not using a significant amount of our resources dealing with juveniles. That is in the forte of the Department of Probation and that education model, so I think that's something that's coming. We're probably several months away from fruition on that, but the facility's been identified and the tenant improvements are currently taking place, and so I'll be bringing that forward with Dr. Vieira to the Commission as that moves forward. And that's pretty much it right now.
Comments, questions? Nope. Okay. So we do have time. I know Rick had another appointment at 11 o'clock, but State Legislative Office update from Sharon Runner's office, Mr. Rick Cook.
Good morning, Dr. Vieira.
Good morning.
Fellow commissioners. Just to give you a brief update on Senator Runner's status, I don't know if you heard, but she had broke her wrist through a traffic accident. No. So doctors didn't allow her to fly down for this last weekend, but we expect her here this weekend. So the funny thing about that accident is there was 3 state cars involved with it all at one time. She is currently authored of 33 bills that are still in the legislature and co-authors of 51 bills. She's been very active since session has got in. I gave you a little quick handout that's in front of you. SB 1021, 1075, 1077, 1109, and 1367 all deal with criminal justice or laws relating to this, but there's 2 other bills that have recently come up that are not on the list, which is Senate Bill 1368. It's a penalty enhancement for alcohol and drugs. This bill would require that any person convicted of any serious felony as specified receive a 1-year sentence enhancement if at the time of the offense the person was under the influence of alcohol or a controlled substance as specified. This bill would require that the enhancement imposed be served consecutive to the punishment imposed by the underlying felony, and by changing the punishment for certain crimes, the bill would impose a state-mandated local program. And then Senate Bill 1369, which he introduced, this is relating to firearms. This bill would require that the Department of Justice, if the department determines that a person prohibited from owning, purchasing, receiving, or possessing a firearm by the provisions described above has attempted to acquire a firearm, to notify local law enforcement agency with primary jurisdiction over the area in which a person was last known to reside. This is asking the Department of Justice to actually inform the Sheriff Department that somebody's requesting a firearm. So we're hoping both those bills go through. They are in Public Safety Committee at this point in time. Any questions?
No. Thank you very much, Rick. Okay, we're now at public business from the floor, non-agendized items, and we do have 4 cards. And we'll start out with Shannon McDonald.
Good morning, Chairman Vieira and
the commissioners. I just came up here just to speak briefly. I was on my way over here and actually heard it twice or 2 or 3 times this morning how the crime rate in Los Angeles has gone up. Excuse me, homicides in Los Angeles have gone up 28%. 28%. And so when I hear our sheriff's department saying, letting us know the stats out here, it's pretty much, it's a relief in a sense that we're not having those types of issues. It's still not the greatest, but it's really good. Another thing I wanted to mention was I went on a ride along a couple weeks ago, and I had a really great time. I just wanted to let the sheriff's department know. You sent me with a great guy. I feel like you guys cheated a little bit by giving me somebody with a master's degree, because that wasn't the point. I'm not saying anything, but I just knew he was going to, that's the point. But I just wanted to let you know I enjoyed myself, and I appreciate you guys setting that up for me. It gave me a perspective and let me understand what you guys actually go through on a regular basis. So I just wanted to let you guys know that I appreciate that, and I'll be looking forward to the nighttime one, because I heard that was really fun. So I'll be looking forward to that, too. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Joseph Aiken.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joseph, and I'm a resident here in the city of Lancaster. And a few minutes ago, I was listening very closely and carefully to Officer Groupie's report regarding the different things that are going on as far as violent crime or burglaries and such. And when you were mentioning about the hotspot areas, well, I feel like I live in one of those areas. I live on the east side of Lancaster, and something that I feel like contributes to the young people, like cutting school and the juvenile delinquency, is we have within the area that I live in, we have quite a few liquor stores and these smoke shops that oftentimes these kids, I see them going to, and we all know that you have to be 21 years old to buy alcohol and 18 to buy tobacco products. But the real truth is it doesn't take much for a kid to stand outside the store and get someone, to buy them alcohol or cigarettes or whatever they want. And I feel like that contributes to the cutting school and engaging in a lot of negative behavior. And I wanted to just ask you how can we maybe kind of reduce how much of that is in our areas, because some of it's very close to our schools, in residential areas, and I really feel like that can cut down on a lot of the negative things that the youth are engaging in.
I appreciate your comments this morning. I think probably one of the good things to do is get together with Mr. Jericho, because there is a neighborhood policing throughout the community.
That's correct. And then also, when these things come forward, you can look on the city website on the agenda specifically for the Planning Commission.
Okay.
Okay, as these issues come forward, that's probably an appropriate time to have that discussion based on where they're going in certain areas. This is an ongoing discussion here at the city's level, and also with staff level, and as well as our council as it relates to this issue.
Okay.
Question. This is to anyone that can really answer it. What is the penalty for buying alcohol for a minor? I mean, it seems to me that's one way to kind of cut it off right there.
Actually, there's a section for contributing to the delinquency of a minor, which is a misdemeanor. And then there's also issues through the ABC code as it relates to that. And also for the vendor or the merchant who identified that, watches that type of activity, there's a penalty as well for that with ABC.
And really what we can try to do on this side is we have access to, I know that Lance Jordan from the Sheriff's Department is our ABC liaison, so there are some investigations that are done that way. And with the tobacco, I believe that the Sheriff's Station still does the undercover, the decoys, the underage sales. And the city has provisions in the municipal code to revoke or suspend licenses of store owners that are selling to minors.
Mr. Aiken, too, the city has taken a pro stance as far as regulating smoke shops, conditions, regulating ABC as far as selling singles, and also I commend you for being here. Like Dr. Vieira said, thank you, for taking an interest in the community and what you do. So, but yeah, the city's pro on this. They've made it perfectly clear. City Council, the vice mayor's here. Chris has made it perfectly clear on the stance on liquor stores and singles and smoke shops. So, and they've come a roundabout on that. So thank you for being here.
All right, thanks.
Thank you for participating.
Next, Mr. David Paul.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, good morning. I wasn't going to speak today, but hearing all this talk and a young lady who I met before about the shootings in her neighborhood, you know, I understand that we do everything we can do and we try and do magic with our limited resources. I hear about the county upping 23 teams for the mentally ill, but there's nowhere to put them once you take them off the streets. So we're spinning our wheels, and I appreciate everybody. I want to say that again. I know what the challenges are. It comes down to a matter of respect, and Mr. DeRico said we're not going to arrest our way out of these problems. You know, years ago, when I worked as a correctional officer, I was the first correctional officer in the 100-year history of Stateville Penitentiary to bring his own boxing equipment into the gym and box with the inmates. I knew an LTA, a leisure time activities guy that I used to work at a bar with before that, and he gave me that insight. And I stood there and I beat on the biggest, toughest men in the prison and gained a measure of respect that helped me do a better job. It couldn't cure all the problems, but you know, I watched this other episode of NCIS and these street heroes. This is about 5 years old, but people dress up in superhero costumes and go out and fight crime because they're so frustrated. Somewhere in between law enforcement and that is a sensible answer where citizens can get up and go out, and the city needs to promote the willingness of citizens to do more than just call the police, because you do the best you can, you respond as quickly as you can, but there are qualified people. I've met so many ex-law enforcement officers, ex-martial arts instructors, current martial arts instructors that are willing to go out and help clean up the community. And if I'm fortunate enough to be elected mayor, that will be something that I will push for heavily, and I will be out there on the streets. And I just want everyone to understand that this is not vigilantism. This is the hopelessness of the people that need a voice. We need to get out there and go to one of these liquor stores where the police cannot be, and I guarantee you I can encourage the proper behavior, and I will help other people learn how to do that, lifting people up once you get their attention. So just understand where I'm coming from. This is not vigilantism, but we need to take back our streets. The people need to take back their streets. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Maria de Los Angeles.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is Maria de Los Angeles, and I moved from San Francisco to Lancaster. And it's been gunshots every night in my street, sometimes twice, sometimes early in the morning, at night. I sleep on the floor to be safe because I'm close to Avenue J, and I'm afraid the gunshots is going to come to my house. The police here in Lancaster, I support them 100%. They're doing a great job, but we don't have enough police officers. You know, I wish we can get some more police officers over here, or get the feds here to help us out, because I live in the east side, and it's very dangerous. I can even go outside to play with my granddaughter in the backyard or in the swimming pool because I'm afraid of the gunshots. So I want to know if you guys can put more police officers in the east side. It's very dangerous over there.
Well, I can't speak on behalf of the Sheriff's Department, but I know that they're always looking at the appropriate allocation of resources of getting people to different areas to address the issues that you're coming up. I'm sure that they're taking into consideration what you're saying here today, and maybe we'd be happy to speak with you or hear more afterwards as well.
Yes, ma'am. My name's Deputy Groupie, assigned to Lancaster Station, and I'd love to get with you after the meeting and have you express some more of your concerns and maybe address those issues, or do an extra patrol request in your area to maybe help you feel like you're more at
Because
ease.
there's gunshots in the walls all the way from Gonzalez Market, all the way to 7-Eleven and the walls. And I'm afraid I don't go out anymore, and I'm retired. I want to enjoy my life. I want to go for a walk. And like I said, I support the police officers over here in Lancaster 100%. And but we don't have enough of them, And I talked to Officer Canela, and he said I can either come to Lancaster Boulevard to have my coffee or walk and enjoy the little stores, or bring my granddaughter for ice cream or something, because the homeless in the street here in Lancaster Boulevard, they bother us. If we don't have the $1.50 to give to them, they want to push you down, and I don't bring my granddaughter anymore. She's 10 years old. She enjoys the ice cream now. We can't come here anymore in Lancaster Boulevard. Even the mayor said that his wife's afraid to walk in Lancaster Boulevard to go to the coffee shop. Because the homeless people, they bother us every time we come to the Cava House in Lancaster Boulevard to have lunch. We don't come there anymore. I don't enjoy my life anymore.
Well, again, I would say that we absolutely support or appreciate your support. And again, I would recommend you meet with Deputy Groupie at this point, and we'll see where we can go from there. But thank you for bringing your concerns forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll meet, and I'll get all of your information. And then also I urge you maybe to come, if you're available tomorrow, to coffee with the deputy at 8 a.m. at the Lemon Leaf Cafe on Lancaster Boulevard.
Sure.
And I'll be there, and we'll discuss more of these issues. If you have neighbors, bring them too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ms. Maria Pazano?
Morning, Maria Elena Paisano. I'm here once again to see if I could give testimony or have a hearing on some issues, and I would like to be able to go through everything that's happened, because I feel that from my experience and things that have happened to me, I could shed a lot of light on a lot of things, problems that are going on.
If I could just share real quickly, because I don't want to go through it again. You got 3 minutes.
If you have any questions, though, please stop and ask me. If you have any questions about any of my testimony, anything that I'm going to say here today, please.
Okay.
These are issues regarding fraud, extortion, assault, theft, falsifying evidence, destroying evidence, conspiracy, criminal racketeering that have been going on. And it's not just me. There's a lot of people that have experienced these same problems. I had lost my home. Well, I didn't lose it. It was basically taken from me. I moved to another home over on 5th Street on the east side. And a lot of the problems that I had there, like I said, have escalated into, like it wasn't bad enough that was going on at that home, but things had escalated tremendously once I moved over to the other area. When I first moved into the home, I had a lot of problems with the home. I take the money I had and put into that home. I had a lot of problems with not only people in the neighborhood and what was going on there, but problems within the home. Like my home would lock me inside. Things would come out of my vents that would cause sickness and things like that I tried to call in and talk about. But the worst problem was at nighttime, we would see this, this black smoke that would come out and encircle the valley or whatever, and it was always the nights that crazy stuff would happen in our neighborhood. People driving erratically through the neighborhood, laughing, throwing things. And it seemed that, well, it didn't seem, it was the way it was, that the police department would follow these people, these groups of kids or groups of people in cars, and it would be like they were buddies with them or involved with them. You couldn't go up to them and say, hey, this is what the problem is going on. They were only concerned with those people that were causing the crimes, it seemed. Like they were discussing them. Now, I couldn't come in and make any kind of police report. I was told if I showed up at the sheriff's department to make any kind of police report, I'd be arrested or worse, or, and this went on for months. And I was going to court at the time as well over what was going on in my home with issues I was having in my home about the things that I just brought up. The electronic problems, Please have questions or something so that I may continue, because there's a lot more to it. I was run off the road by the police that took my vehicle. Actually, they said that when they ran me off the road, I was pulling up to a stop sign. It was late at night. I had taken my dogs out for a run, and I pulled up to a stop sign. Nobody else was out that evening. It was by a school. I was probably going 10 miles an hour, and I looked in my rearview mirror, and a car was coming up behind me, and I thought it was somebody actually running off the road because of all the stuff that had been going on there. I'd like to discuss kidnappings and also that were going on in my neighborhood.
Okay. Ms. Pisano, like I said at the last minute, I'll be happy to afterwards. Let me finish, please. I'll be happy to meet with you afterwards to hear what you have to say, but your 3 minutes are up. So if you want to stick around this time, I can afford some additional time. But thank you for coming forward.
And
With that, any comments from commissioners in closing? Hearing none, this meeting stands adjourned at 11 o'clock. Thank you very much.